In the winter of 1941, the vast fields of Eastern Europe turned white with snow and red with blood. German soldiers who had once marched triumphantly through France now found themselves trapped in a world they could barely understand. The Eastern Front was unlike anything they had ever seen. An endless expanse of frozen wilderness where men didn't just fight the enemy, they fought the cold, hunger, and their own fear. When Operation Barbarossa began, the German army believed it would crush the Soviet Union in a matter of months. The soldiers were told they were invincible, that their victory was certain. Many believed they would be home by Christmas. But as the days turned into months and the front stretched thousands of kilometers deep into Russian territory, that illusion shattered. Supplies ran thin, winter arrived earlier than expected, and the Red Army refused to die. German soldiers had been trained for fast, lightning warfare, blitzkrieg. But blitzkrieg didn't work in the endless snow. Tanks froze, guns jammed, engines wouldn't start. Soldiers burned anything they could find to keep warm. Wood, furniture, even parts of their own equipment. They wrapped their feet in rags because proper winter boots never arrived. Frostbite claimed more men than bullets. Some soldiers' fingers turned black and fell off before they even reached the front lines. And yet, they fought on. For many, the greatest enemy wasn't the Soviet army, it was nature itself. The temperature dropped to -40. Men's breath turned to ice the moment it left their mouths. In letters home, soldiers described the unbearable silence of the steppe, broken only by the distant rumble of artillery. Some wrote that they no longer cared who won the war, they just wanted to survive one more night. The battles were savage beyond imagination. Villages changed hands several times in a single day. Entire units disappeared in the snow, their bodies never found. The Red Army fought with brutal determination, defending every inch of ground. Soviet partisans ambushed supply convoys in the forests, cutting off the Germans from food and ammunition. The German army began to starve. Horses died by the thousands, and desperate soldiers boiled their meat for soup. At Stalingrad, the nightmare reached its peak. The city became a graveyard of steel and ash. Every building, every room, every staircase became a battlefield. German soldiers fought street by street, often at point-blank range. At first, they believed they were winning. Then winter came again, and this time, the Soviets struck back. Encircled, freezing, and out of food, entire divisions surrendered. For the first time, the German army realized it could be destroyed. Captured soldiers faced a new kind of hell. The Soviets forced them to march hundreds of miles to prison camps in Siberia. Many collapsed on the way and were left in the snow. Those who reached the camps endured starvation, disease, and unimaginable cold. Out of the 3 million German soldiers who fought on the Eastern Front, less than a third ever returned home. Some didn't come back until 10 years after the war had ended. But the suffering wasn't one-sided. Soviet civilians endured horrors of their own. Whole towns were burned. Families executed. In the chaos of total war, humanity disappeared. Even the German soldiers, once proud and disciplined, became shadows of themselves, haunted by what they had done and what they had seen. They began to question the propaganda that had brought them there. What was the purpose of this war? Why were they fighting in a land that wanted them dead? By 1944, the roles had reversed. The Red Army was advancing westward, and the Germans were now the ones retreating. They dug trenches in frozen soil, hoping to slow down the Soviet tide. Veterans of the early campaigns were long gone, replaced by teenagers and old men. The once invincible Wehrmacht was now broken, starving, and afraid. Their letters spoke not of glory, but of despair. One soldier wrote, "We no longer dream of victory. We only dream of sleep." When the war finally ended in 1945, the Eastern Front had consumed over 27 million lives. It was not just a military conflict, it was a human catastrophe. The German soldiers who survived carried the trauma for the rest of their lives. Many refused to speak about what they saw, fearing no one would understand. Others spent decades searching for the graves of their friends lost in the snow. The truth about the German soldiers on the Eastern Front is not about heroism or victory, it's about endurance. It's about ordinary men thrown into an inhuman nightmare, trying to stay alive in a place where even the air seemed to kill. They fought, they froze, and they faded into history, leaving behind only photographs, letters, and memories buried beneath the ice. The Eastern Front was the place where dreams of conquest turned into a struggle for survival. And in that frozen wasteland, the German army learned the harshest truth of all. That no power, no army, and no ideology can defeat the cold, the hunger, and the will of a people defending their home.